Welcome to the introduction to the Readiness Method. Alright, let's start simple. What is readiness? Well, it's not a belief system, and it's not a philosophy that you need to adopt. It's really just a way of understanding your mind, a way that makes your inner life easier to deal with. So here's the thing, most mental distress doesn't actually start with a thought. It starts earlier, usually due to some sort of trigger. Maybe it feels like a tightening in the chest when your partner makes a suggestion, or maybe it's a subtle sense of unease when a work email lands in your inbox. Often it's some sort of low-level discomfort that you can't quite explain. And then that's when your mind jumps in. A story appears, an explanation, a justification, the familiar narrative that says, this thing right now is a problem. This is wrong. There is something that has to be done. So what readiness is it's a process that we carry with us. It's there, it's waiting, and it's ready to be noticed. And when we notice, instead of fixing, judging, reacting, instead we're going to pause. You notice your breath, you notice the tension, and you see it as just a sensation rather than being a problem. And with it, you can see that nothing needs to be pushed away, nothing needs to be believed. And as you allow that tension to ease, even just a little, something shifts. You feel grounded, present. From there, something new becomes possible. You're able to observe without interference, without suppressing, and also without following the sensations. When we master that skill of being able to observe with calmness and with presence, over time we can begin to see our patterns more clearly and less personally. Not as problems to solve, but as movements that we can understand. And that really is the foundation of the Readiness Method. It's simple presence that makes genuine choice possible. Now, if you have the book with you, you can refer to this session with a more detailed explanation, or you can review the concepts as we go along, but otherwise, just stay with me. So, why does any of this matter? Our bodies and minds are wired to repeat what's familiar, even when familiar no longer serves us. And if we act without pause, we just keep on following the same patterns, thinking that they're safe, even if they're potentially leading somewhere we don't want to go. You can think of it like this. Imagine a plane that's flying perfectly on autopilot. Everything looks stable. Nothing's wrong technically, but the destination that's been programmed into the plane is wrong. Now the plane will still fly smoothly, and it will still, however, arrive somewhere you didn't intend to go. Or think of it perhaps as how you might automatically scroll on your phone when you're stressed, or perhaps you snap at a colleague without realizing it. That's tension and that's habit keeping you on old coordinates. Readiness doesn't force change, it just creates the conditions where we can check the coordinates. So who is this for? This is for people who've reached a quiet decision point. Maybe you feel it in your work, your relationships, or your sense of meaning. Perhaps there's a sense that something has to change and you're not even able to really put it into words yet. Often the feeling is subtle. Maybe it's a rule that you didn't consciously choose and yet you follow. Perhaps it's a habit that once helped you a lot but now quietly limits you, or an assumption about life that it's actually holding you in place. Readiness treats these as indicators that old rules are still operating. And if we're able to use calm and self-observation, we can find those old rules that are still operating and we can depower them. Readiness provides the process to notice and to work with them, using calmness and even-minded observation. So this process is not for those who want to stay as they are, who are completely comfortable staying as they've always been. Therefore, The decision to follow this process and use this process requires your discernment. It's a personal choice, and it's one that can't be made for you. Also, it's important to understand that readiness is not suitable for people who are in crisis or who have serious mental illness. So please check the disclaimer in the book. So now, what this method is and what it isn't. Readiness is not a prescription. It doesn't tell you how to live. It doesn't preach. It doesn't tell you what you should or shouldn't do. And it doesn't also promise happiness, success, certainty, or enlightenment. Instead, it's a pragmatic tool which is designed to empower you to come to your own conclusions. It's for people who sense that what once drove them no longer fits, and they want to relate more wisely to their experience. For people who are not interested in replacing one authority with another. Everything about us, habits, perceptions, values, even our sense of self, is conditioned, which means to say that it is learnt. And over time, sometimes situations change. What we have conditioned and learnt stops serving us. Readiness just gives us a gentle way of noticing what is supporting you, and you can still keep, what is draining you and might be best to be left behind, and what can just be simply softened. So in that way, because you're not making drastic change and chasing some new project, you're not turning your life upside down. So the emphasis here is that this is not drastic change. It's a simple discernment. You're not becoming someone new, but you're seeing more clearly how you're already shaped. And then you're reclaiming small amounts of authorship where it matters for you. For example, maybe you're noticing that you tense your jaw when you're stressed, or you always want to hold back your thoughts in meetings. Just noticing these patterns doesn't demand change. It just helps make the landscape clear. A final thought. So there are no claims here about ultimate reality, about God, about how your brain should work. There's nothing that you have to believe, and there's nothing that you have to become. What you do get is an invitation. Investigate your own experience and trust in what you find. You're in the driver's seat. The readiness method is practical. It can help you reduce unnecessary strain, protect your energy, and help you live with more clarity and ownership. It's certainly not for everyone, but if something inside you recognizes this moment, this may be the right place for you to begin, right here, right now. Now remember, if you want more detail, you can always dive into these ideas by diving into the book and referring to that. But in the meantime, continue to join me here as we explore the method together. I'll see you in the next chapter.